following announcement has been paid for by
Joe Gagne.
The preceding announcement has been paid for by
Joe Gagne. We wrap up our THQ Aki series with our first ever double shot episode. What's that, you say? Thought we were done with No Mercy? Well, we covered the 4 titles THQ released in the US, but Japan also saw their own releases, starting with Virtual Pro Wrestling 64, released in December 1997. And yes, we'll talk about the PlayStation version and its American counterpart next time. I don't have a lot to say about the first Virtual Pro Wrestling. It looks, sounds, and plays like WCW vs. NWO World Tour, but with a few distinct differences. First off, there are a lot more wrestlers. In addition to essentially everyone who was in World Tour, they also now have wrestlers from All Japan, New Japan, shoot groups like Rings and Pancrase, and a bunch of legends. Overall, there are 94 characters in the game, and technically even more because some characters share costume slots. Second, some of the American characters are tailored more for the Japanese audience. Chris Benoit wears his Wild Pegasus tights instead of the 4 Horsemen version, and Eddie Guerrero sports a Black Tiger costume. All the legends in the game is an interesting point. It's a staple in Japanese games, but not so much for the US. No Mercy threw in Andre the Giant, and well, that was really it for a while. But Virtual Pro Wrestling has well over a dozen. Curiously, they have people like Rikidozan as an unlockable character, even though he wrestled in the 1950s. I'm guessing almost no one playing the game ever saw him wrestle live during his career. Even when the WWE started adding legends into the game, they usually had the first WrestleMania as a cutoff point. The other interesting note is that Virtual Pro Wrestling features a referee, post-match scoring, and the ability to edit wrestlers, features we wouldn't see in the States until Revenge. It's overall a superior package to World Tour, but I wouldn't go out of my way to import it. Its follow-up, though, is another matter entirely. While the US market got sequels every year, the Japanese audience had to wait over 2 years for Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, Odo Keisho, which roughly translates into Royal Road Inheritance, at least according to Babelfish. The wait was worth it, though, because this is simply the best wrestling game ever. This was one of my rare import experiences. I wasn't a big fan of Japanese wrestling at the time, but I loved the game engine so much I wanted to play any version of it I could. Of course, seeing that I was trying to play a Japanese cartridge on an American console, there were compatibility issues, meaning that the cartridge won't fit in my N64. However, if you cut the edges off your card, it will fit, but I'm not wanting to take a hacksaw to my expensive imported game, I just bought a converter. What's interesting is that, like its predecessor, VPW2 features wrestlers from all sorts of companies, but the game actually has an All Japan Pro Wrestling license. So all of the All Japan wrestlers are featured with their actual names and appearances, and the opening intro video just features All Japan guys, even though they only make up a fraction of the game's roster. The other 77 available characters in the game have jumbled up names and appearances, but with Wrestler Edit you can have everyone renamed and looking proper in no time. The All Japan Gaijin roster is interesting. You have Vader, fresh off his WWF run.
I'm nothing but a big piece of shit. Big fat piece of shit.
Made my favorite character for kicking ass in the game. There's Gary Albright, who sadly passed away in the ring 3 weeks before the game came out. There's current Raw and SmackDown General Manager Johnny Ace. See, he was a big star there. Feel the Power.
Power! WWF! Figures sold separately!
Wait, Feel the Power? People Power. Huh. And there's his tag team partner Mike Barton, a.k.a. Bart Gunn, a.k.a. the guy who was illegally murdered by Butterbean at WrestleMania 15. Also, Kamala's in the game. Not the original, but Kamala too. Who's a guy named Ben Peacock, which is actually a pretty great wrestling name itself. The nice thing about Japanese wrestling is a lot of different companies have different styles, which is represented in the game. So you have quasi-shoot guys from Rings and Pancrase, junior high flyers from Michinoku Pro, hardcore guys from FMW, and the traditional heavyweight wrestlers from All and New Japan. Okay, let's get into why this is the best game ever. First of all, the Aki engine is at its apex, including the running grapples later seen in No Mercy. They also brought back the strong grapple strikes last seen in WCW vs. NWO Revenge. I wasn't a big fan of it there, but it works better here, since strikes are a bigger part of offense in Japan. It's also got one extra twist, the super special. For some wrestlers, if you do a taunt while you have a special, then you get a chance to do another finisher, like Ken Kobashi's Burning Hammer, for example. The twist is you only get one chance to do it during the match. That might sound a little hokey like the super moves from Raw, but it totally works and adds a lot of drama to long matches. Do you try an Orange Crush right away, or save it for later in the match? VPW2 also gets into the idea of running different buildings. Games like Revenge and No Mercy would have different pay-per-view sets, but it could all be held in the same building. Because outside of, say, Madison Square Garden, it really doesn't matter where a WWE show is held. If Raw is held in Boston or New Orleans or Tampa, would you really know unless they told you? But Japan has a lot of famous buildings they run. You can tell where they are just by looking. Represented in the game are the smaller Korakuen Hall, Budokan, Kawasaki Stadium, an awesome outdoor setting, and a Tokyo Dome complete with entrance ramp. Maybe the game's best feature is its entrances. Only a few All Japan guys have their entrance music, and most everyone else gets random generic music. But you see your wrestlers start in the back and make their way down to the ring. Plus the game has an actual ring announcer. Again, only the All Japan guys have their names announced. For everyone else, it's basically, in this corner, this guy, and in the other corner, the other guy. But still great. The main gameplay mode is Royal Road Succession. Kind of like the road to WrestleMania, where you go through a calendar year and compete in various All Japan events like the Champions Carnival and Tag League. It's also where you do a lot of unlocking of hidden characters. For example, win the tag tournament with anyone and it unlocks Dory and Terry Funk. If you use Stan Hansen and go through the month of May, it unlocks Bruiser Brody. But there are some weird ways to unlock things. Play 15 matches with any combo of Magnum Tokyo, Seema, or Dragon Kid, it unlocks their trainer Ultimo Dragon. If you make anyone bleed in any kind of match, it opens Abdul the Butcher. Beat Giant Baba by submission in exhibition mode and it nets you the Destroyer's Mask. If you turn the game on 20 times, it unlocks the moves for Revenge in the Creator Wrestler mode. If you turn it on 40 times, you get the moves from WrestleMania 2000. That's just so weird. But Joe, you protest. There aren't any cool stipulations like ladder or cage matches. And this is true. Gimmick matches aren't really a big part of Japanese wrestling, so they're not in the game. But how about shoot fighting? No, I'm not kidding. There's an MMA mode. We can shoot for takedowns, go for submissions, and KO someone with a high kick, which is immensely satisfying. You can customize things like round lengths and specific point deductions for knockdowns and rope breaks. It's not quite the UFC games of today, but you consider the game came out in 2000, it's pretty damned incredible. You can have anyone in the game compete under MMA rules, so that long-awaited Semi-Shield versus Grand Naniwa showdown can finally happen. There are even Pride fighters in the game, including Kazushi Sakuraba, so you know Dave Meltzer approves. You may be thinking, well, how am I supposed to play a game in Japanese? Well, take a gander at the menu screen. Look familiar? It's essentially the same as WrestleMania 2000. If you play that, you can play this. Plus, there are plenty of translation guides on the interwebs to get you going. And like Fire Pro, it doesn't matter if you're a fan of Japanese wrestling. I wasn't when I got the game, but it helped me become one, since I got so familiar with the big stars' looks and movesets. Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 is an epic achievement that totally holds up. It's my favorite wrestling game of all time. If you like the THQ, Aki, WCW, and WWF games, you should totally add this to your library. You'll thank me later. And speaking of things you should buy, we finally have t-shirts. We're taking pre-orders until June 12th, and one of these bad boys can be yours for $15, plus $3 shipping and handling in the continental US. Check out our Facebook page for more details. Until next time, thanks for watching, and remember, the winner is you.